Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess featuring a bonus pin-up and the other two books in the Cyber Goddess saga at online booksellers everywhere today. After watching the extremely terrible Tyler Perry's Mortal Kombat, I had to find something on HBO Max to wash the idiocy out of my mind. And as I was scrolling through the superhero selection of movies on HBO Max, I came upon Zack Snyder's Watchmen. Now, I had passed on Zack Snyder's Watchmen when it came to the theaters, but I figured since I had a couple of days left on this HBO Max subscription, I would take a look at this film since I saw the really solid job he did on Justice League. And after watching Zack Snyder's Watchmen, I can see why DC Comics and Warner Brothers wanted to choose him to take on the DC Cinematic Universe, because he put together an absolute masterpiece of a film. Now, your Watchmen is based on the 1985 or 1986 maxi series that was written by the legendary Alan Moore and penciled by Dave Gibbons. And in this comic, which uses the Charlton Comics characters or derivatives of them, they make a social commentary on the state of the superhero. Now, in your Zack Snyder's Watchmen, we don't get an adaptation of the material where a director takes liberties with the characters and the story. No, we get a clear and direct translation of the material that really brings the whole maxi series to life over the course of 3 hours. And in this movie, Watchmen is basically, it is like like the comic book come to life. You basically feel like the 9-panel pages of Dave Gibbons have been brought to life on screen. Now, your Zack Snyder's Watchmen opens up just like the comic, where we're in this dystopian future where Richard Nixon is on his 3rd term as president, and we're in the middle of a Cold War that is just about to explode. And tensions are high all across the world, with the US and the USSR at odds, and the country could go to World War III at practically any moment. Now, as a result of this, the world's superheroes really have become a completely different kind of character. Instead of being icons of hope like they used to be, many of your superheroes have become very dark, very cynical, and very angry, and they have become extremely detached and disconnected from the people they serve. And because they're so detached and disconnected from the people, there's no real regard for human life, and the heroes' lives are not really seen as something that really matter. And that's shown in the inciting incident where the comedian, a superhero, is sitting at home watching TV, and then he's murdered by a mysterious individual. Now, that inciting incident kicks everything off, and it introduces us to Rorschach, who is going to investigate this whole case as related to somebody murdering the superheroes. And he lets other superheroes know that their lives are in danger, like Night Owl and Silk Spectre. And as he's going on in his investigation, we're learning a lot more about these superheroes, and that they aren't really as idealistic as we think that they are. And when he gets to Dr. Manhattan, we really start to see how really sad many of these superheroes have become, because instead of them again being beacons of hope like Superman and Batman were in the DC universe, in this universe, these superheroes have really become cynical, detached, and disconnected. And I feel in some ways that Alan Moore was making a commentary on how human beings over time, when they're on a job, what happens is they start to become extremely detached from that job. Because when somebody first starts out on a job, they have a lot of passion and love for what they want to do. But as time goes on and they have numerous bad experiences on that job and they get caught up in routines on that job, what happens is they start to become apathetic about their job. They start to become disappointed with their job, and they start to become cynical about the work that they do. And as they become apathetic and cynical about their work, they start to become indifferent and detached from their work. So that's one of the things I noticed with Dr. Manhattan as related to his incredible power. And I also noticed it with Night Owl and Silk Spectre when they were going out on the street to take on those punks. They were really just looking to try to feel something again, and many of the heroes really weren't feeling or connecting with the people, and that's what made them being heroes not really be effective, and why everything was feeling so bleak and so dark. And things were probably feeling so bleak and so dark because they felt like there was no way to save the world from that Cold War and the prospect of World War III. I mean, even with Dr. Manhattan practically ending the Vietnam War, it did not really stop the whole ideal between your capitalism and your communism that was driving the world to World War III. And that's probably one of the things that the world's smartest man, Ozymandias, was thinking about as he came up with his master plan to practically get the world to come together. Now, as this mystery is going on, we find out that that Ozymandias was the mastermind behind everything, and this is one of the things that leads to a big revelation that really makes a real question about superhero ethics. Were the superheroes right in going along with Ozymandias, or were they just as bad as the villains they profess to fight against? And that's a question that the Watchmen movie really makes you think about, because it seems like the only way to get to peace was to have mankind have an enemy in the superhero and turn the superhero into a god that they feared. And that was a very interesting point that was presented in the movie, but it also leaves a question as related to, again, superheroes and ethics, because the original concept of the superhero was meant to be somebody who was somebody from the community who wanted to help people out. But when we look at this movie, it shows us that it seems like the only way to help people out was to violate ethics and violate social rules as related to humanity. And that's a real scary and slippery slope, because it really reminded me of what Megatron was talking about on his Transformers card, Peace Through Tyranny, because that seems like the only way to get to peace was through one person practically controlling everything. But when I look at this Watchmen movie, again, it leaves a lot of thought-provoking questions about superheroes and what is considered to be truly a heroic thing to do. Because when I looked at this movie, it seems like it says that this Ozymandias, the only way he could get to peace was by sacrificing the lives of a few. And he was thinking from an abstract way of the old concept, the needs of the many over the needs of the few. And he was willing to sacrifice a few people in order to get peace for billions. But that leaves, again, an ethical question of, was he a hero by killing people, or was he on the road to becoming a villain? And were the other heroes, like Night Owl and Silk Spectre and Dr. Manhattan, on the road to villainy? Because as they were becoming more and more indifferent and detached from their whole idea of being a hero, were they becoming more and more a villain and supporting Ozymandias, and were they all becoming more and more villain-like? And that's something that's, again, very interesting concept as related to this movie, and it really showed how it was the superhero was really on the road to becoming a supervillain if they went out here and making some compromises that were considered less than ethical. So the Watchmen comic and the Watchmen movie really make you think about the whole idea of superhero ethics and what is truly right and what is truly wrong. And as I was watching this movie, I could really think about something Alan Moore really proposed as to Watchmen, because your Alan Moore has been he was really disappointed with the state of the comic book industry after Watchmen was published, because after Watchmen was published, every other comic creator out here, they've been trying to make another Watchmen, and you have guys like your Jonathan Hickman trying to make the Avengers into the Watchmen. You have many other creators, I think, like the creators of Invincible, trying to do Watchmen type stories, and everybody's been trying to do Watchmen, and it has really affected the superhero genre, which really didn't understand that Watchmen really was a commentary on what superheroes should not be, and the movie really was making a commentary on what superheroes should not be. I mean, these weren't heroes in any way, shape, or form, and their ethics were just, again, completely twisted because they had become extremely detached and extremely cynical about their jobs, and they really were not standing for anything that was right at all except for whatever they felt was right, and they had no real moral compass as related to right and wrong. And I can understand why Alan Moore was so grieved by the whole Watchmen concept, because it led to a lot of comic book companies thinking that they had to make all their characters dark and gritty and unethical, instead of trying to make it where it was about just superheroes going out here and doing the right thing. But this film by Zack Snyder is a cinematic masterpiece, and he has done a fantastic job with the visuals and capturing the spirit of the mood of the comic, and he's done a fantastic job of really directing everybody's performances in this film. And as I was watching Night Owl, I could easily see him doing a Batman movie, and that's probably one of the reasons why Warner Brothers was so gung-ho on Zack Snyder as related to the DC Cinematic Universe. But he was the wrong man for Superman, as I see it. He would be really good on Batman, but his Justice League was pretty solid. But the whole thing is that Zack Snyder, this was the movie that showed how much talent he had, and he was given an entire world to work with unhindered, and he gave us a cinematic masterpiece and an extremely solid film that, even though it ran for 3 hours, it felt like no time at all. I mean, it was a very, very well done film, and I highly recommend you go out here and check out Zack Snyder's Watchmen. If you want to see a movie that is an absolutely cinematic and visual masterpiece, that it stays faithful to the source material and does an excellent job capturing the spirit of the characters, then you really want to go check out Zack Snyder's Watchmen, which is on HBO Max right now, and you definitely won't be disappointed by this film. Now, if you want to see me make more movie review videos like this of superhero films and TV shows, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App, so I can continue being able to pay for subscription services like Amazon Prime, HBO Max, and Disney Plus, so I can continue reviewing that kind of content. And if you want to try some of my SJS Direct universe stories like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spencerella trilogy, you may do so. You can pick up those books in paperback and Kindle format on Amazon.com by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, Taking Care of Business. The man who rules the world breaks in a brand new partner to help him take care of business in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, Taking Care of Business at paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere.